Good afternoon. My name is Dion Carr. This is my wife, Mary. And I've been hand propping my own champ for 23 years. I've been hand propping longer than that. I've done, T-craft and champs and cubs, etc. as after I learned how to fly in '83. Mary's been with me for 16 years, and she's been hand propping almost all of that. We go to a lot of Young Eagle rallies. She's my starter. How many of you guys have hand propped? All right, I see quite a few out there. You guys are the experts. I'm not. But I have done this successfully for all these years, and I have all my fingers, I have all my toes, and I don't have any scars from ever being hit by that prop. I've had at least one instance where if I hadn't taken the precautions that I'm sharing with you today, I would have been one of those statistics you read about. But because of the precautions I like to take, I wasn't. I hope that each of you goes from this presentation today and you go and you watch other people do it, and you see what they do good and you see what they do bad. You take the bad, throw it away. You take the good, you add it to your repertoire. You share all the good with everybody else. Let's make us all get a little better at this. One of the important things is you get a routine and you follow it every time. You don't be like the guy who lands his airplane on the runway, advances the throttle, and these little Strombergs don't have an accelerated pump, so the engine quits. He gets out. He doesn't have his chocks. He doesn't have his tail tied down. Okay, so he can't do that. And so he jumps right out. He turns the switch on, and he props it, and it takes off without him and goes away for 2 hours till it lands itself in a field someplace. That has happened. He forgot to close his throttle. We'll get to that in just a little bit. There are things he could have done to make sure he closed the throttle. So I want to start out talking a little bit about tie downs, then we'll talk a little bit about mags, and a little bit about solo propping, and then we're going to demonstrate the two-person propping and how she's also going to demonstrate from propping from behind. Mary here is going to do the actual propping. I want to start out with, you see the doggy stake tie down here? It's a pure doggy stake tie down. It's got machining right next to it, and it's got an open handle. Good idea to use? What do you think? No. Okay. We used to have a 40-pound chow mix dog. She broke those. What about your 730-pound empty weight airplane? Okay, so you get one and they welded the handle up and they didn't machine this part here. Is that a better idea? Yeah, slightly. It'll still break right here. Here's another attempt. I used one like this on my canopy on my trailer. One broke with the wind pulling on it, and the other broke when I was putting it in. Bad idea. This is what you do with them. Throw them away. Better idea. I got a corkscrew here. I bought from Alexander Airplane, so that was a while back. Now it's Aircraft Spruce East. You screw that all the way down. It actually holds pretty darn good. You put it in an angle and you pull against it. But this would be screwed clear down into here. Okay, I didn't screw it down in for just demonstration so you can see what it looks like. A few years ago in one of the EA publications, they came up with a chain. It's three legs of a chain. I'll pass one around here. And it works really good. You make some long arms such as these for drawing them in. That's 18 inches long. I've used that one for a long time also, and I've had really good luck with it in some storms. I like to use two different kinds in the fly-in, put one there and one here. Sometimes you get soil types that are different. This one will work. Other times this one will. You're all familiar with the claw, I'm sure. It's advertised all the time. The manufacturer says to pull straight up. If you can't pull straight up, to pull out underneath one arm, over top of one arm. Not this way, but over the arm. You're familiar with fly ties? That's a pretty good one. I don't have an example of it here. In your vintage magazine, there's an example of something very similar to fly ties that you can use. You can Google it and come up with the article. It gives instructions. EA on the ground too is using these, just a TV bar, like this one. If you put it in the angle and you pull the rope out at an angle, it's not too bad. If you notice they got two here, drill at two different angles. Works pretty good. This isn't bad if you put it in and you pull it at an angle to it. But if you pull it at the same angle that you drove it in, that all that dirt's disturbed and you could pull it out. Okay, so tie downs. I'm not a knot tire. Don't ask me to teach you knots. So I thought straps would be great. My first one was a cinch strap, and I come by the airplane one time. It was in a storm, and I actually watched it slide on the cinch. I don't like cinch, so I thought, I'll go ratchet strap. Pretty good idea, right? Nice and solid, heavy duty one. And then I walked on my airplane, kind of like from the back row there, and I saw somebody looking at the airplane at an air show. And he thought my strap was loose, so he tightened it for me. Nice, helpful. I really appreciate that. But it got me to thinking about what ifs. Something I want you all to do. What if, whenever you're hand propping. But it got me thinking about what ifs. What if he tightened it? He saw that one was loose, he tightened it. Somebody else had a storm coming in. I'll help him. I'll tighten him down a little bit for him. And I picture in my mind my dihedral sitting out here like this, ending up like this. I got to thinking, you know, maybe that's not such a good idea. This was a brand new strap last week. Put it on along with 6 others to hold a scooter on my motorhome. It was 16 foot long. Wasn't rated heavy enough. So I ended up going to ropes. Our sailboat community, those people know a lot about ropes. Double braided polyester. They pass that around. That one's 5/16. That's more than heavy enough for your champ, your chief, your TCAP. This one's 3/8. That'll even hold your Stinson. The gentleman that put me onto this, and he's trying to teach me how to tie knots. He does a beautiful job here. He said even 1/4 inch would hold my chief. This is like the hardware store variety stuff. It's not as good as that there. There's 40 feet in each one of those coils. That's more than enough, each one of them, to do your tie down in your airplane. Those 2 coils together only cost me $60, so it's not a lot. That double braided polyester from the sailplane community, that's going to last me a very long time. I'm pretty pleased with it, and that's what I'm going to be using from now on. Okay. You got a prop. Because of magnetos, you always assume it's hot. This is an impulse coupling magneto. I want you to listen to the click. Did y'all hear the click? Now notice, from right here until it clicks, that center shaft's not spinning. It's kind of like winding up your old wind-up lawnmowers. You'd wind them up and hit the release, and that'd go real quick and start it. Well, this is doing the same thing, only it goes real quick, and when it does, it generates a hot spark for this. When it reaches a certain RPM, the counterweights on the impulse pull the pawls out of the way, and it doesn't catch it all. So that's how you get rid of it. That's why you don't hear it all the time when your engine's running. It doesn't take much. Just moving it like this is enough to start that engine. So when we move the prop, we're repositioning it. Treat it like it's hot, because if the switch is bad, or the P lead's broken, or there's corrosion in the switch, or the switch is on, that prop could actually fire. If the fuel air is right in the cylinder that the spark plug fires, it's going to run. Moving on just a little bit. Here's some examples of throttle stops. How many of you got champs or cubs? Okay. A bungee's cord can hold it all the way closed. If you need to have it cracked, put a little wedge in there. You always know where the throttle is if you make that part of your routine. If you got a center mounted throttle, a little piece of plastic here, you can cut it for the dimension that you need to have the throttle closed. You got some kid in the airplane while you're propping it, he can't firewall it on you. That's scary when that happens, let me tell you. If you got one, if you have to have a crack position, make one just a little bit shorter. Same way. That tubing, a 4-foot piece of it, cost me $1.99. I'm going to pass the throttle around with some plastic stop for it. I cut the slots so that you have to pop it on and pop it off. It's just a little trick you can use to help keep yourself out of trouble. Now, does anybody know if there's any regulations on hand propping? Anybody? A licensed pilot has to be at the controls?
There aren't any regulations.
There are not any regulations. There is an advisory. FAA publishes a handbook called FAA-H-8083-3B. It's in Chapter 2, pages 213 and 214. This page, all the yellow. This page, all the yellow. They talk about a qualified occupant, someone who's been trained, but not necessarily a pilot, okay? They talk about the, excuse me about this microphone. They talk about the commands to use. And some various other things in there. It's good reading. I'd recommend it. We're going to go through here actual propping at the moment. But before we do, Mary's going to show you, she's taking off something that might distract her. If she had a hat, she'd probably take that off. If she had a backpack, she'd take that off. If she had a loose coat, she'd take that off or zip it up. Anything that distracts you could cause you to step into that arc after that engine's running. I have 2 daughters. We talk about distractions. The oldest was 16, had the youngest with her, and went to get pizza at the Pizza Hut. She picked up the pizza, she laid it on the dash, she drove around the corner, it slid across there, she took her hands off the wheel, grabbed the pizza, and hit the parked car. Hey, it was just a car, not a prop. The youngest said, "Dad, I'll never do that." 10 years later, guess what? She had her grandma with her, she did exactly the same thing, same spot, different car, but different car she hit, it was the same car her sister had used. So it can happen. It can happen. So she takes all that. Now she's a little afraid of the prop, so she's going to reach out here like this, thinking distance is better, right? What happens if she falls from that position? Where's she going? Right into the prop arc. Bad idea. So she's going to get up close and personal with it. Relaxed. She's going to keep her frame vertical. Her head's going to stay vertical as she throws the prop. Her fingers, the little part of the meat right here might go over the edge if it's a metal prop. On a wood prop, she can just, it's got enough friction, your hands can just stay right on the face. Her hands are not going to go to this first knuckle. That is not going to go over there. If the prop kicks backwards on her when it does that, it comes back right around like this, and it's pulled her into it, and it hits her in the hip, the leg, the knee, and probably breaks bones. So she's not going to do that. So she's nice and comfortable. We've gone through all the commands, and she's going to throw the prop.
Contact!
One of the things that she has to do is make sure she has clear footing. Good demonstration. She could have tripped over that gentleman in the airplane because it wasn't locked or it wasn't secure. Could have kept moving forward and got them both. Okay, we're going to go through the commands.
Switch off!
Switch off, she says. Now, why doesn't she say switch on? Because switch off and switch on sound very, very familiar. Very much the same. Easy to confuse. So we use the word contact for switch on. So switch off. Now at the same time, she wants to be sure she's talking the magneto switch. So she's talked to whoever's in the cockpit. I'm in the cockpit right now. She's talked to me already and made sure I understand it's not the master switch, but the mag switch. Because a friend of mine was doing this, And he said switch off, and the guy turned the switch off on the inside of the airplane. He turned the master switch off. The gentleman on the outside positioned the prop, and as he positioned it, the impulse clicked, and the engine started. He wanted the mag switch turned off. Okay, so switch off.
Brake set.
I set the brakes, and she doesn't trust me. Well, shucks. Rightfully so. Maybe I was an idiot and I put my feet on the rudder pedals and forgot the heel brakes. You're the person out in front. You want to be sure you're safe. So she checks me. The brakes are set.
Fuel on.
I turn the fuel on, and then I repeat, fuel on.
Throttle closed.
I close the throttle, and I say, throttle closed.
Contact.
I turn the switch on, and I say, contact. She takes 2 or 3 steps back and goes to the end of the wing and approaches the cockpit. So she'll say, who's in charge out here? She is. If she's out there and I'm in here and I won't do what she wants, what should she do? Just leave. Hey, if you get out of here, you're not welcome. Okay, if we were solo hand propping, obviously I have chocks here. I have chocks on the front and the back. I'd have the tail tied down, not like it is now. There's some neat tricks you can use on the tail to tie down. You can have a rope come from the seat frame, go back through the handle, around something, and back up to the seat frame. You could tie it on both places and you could hook it together. Or you could have something with a loop on one end and a cattle snap on it. I pull the cattle snap, and it's a quick release. In one of the magazines a few years ago, there was a diagram of a quick release. You could make a little loop just back by the tail, and you had a pin you pulled on a string that you kept up in the cockpit, and you could pull it and it would release. I will have one of those here next year. I'm sorry I don't have one now, but I will have one here next year. It's just a little quick release back there. You could have a tow hook. You could just tie it. I also start, when I solo, I start with the fuel turned off. I primed it with the fuel on, then I've turned it off. These little Continentals will run for 3.5 minutes, give or take just a little bit, on what's in the carburetor bowl itself. That is enough time for you to start it, walk back and untie the tail, come up, pull the chocks, get in the airplane, put your 5-point harness on, and that's another story, and set the altimeter, check your gauges, and start to advance the throttle to taxi out before the engine quit because you forgot to turn the fuel back on. So you have lots of time. It's not something like you got to rush around. You have time. You have time to put your head back in the cockpit and make sure the oil pressure is good and all that kind of stuff, and go ahead and turn the fuel on if you need to. You have time to do all that and set everything before you go. When I do the chocks, I like to do them, I'll set this way. Would you help me, sir? Just hold on to that for a moment. All right, she's one wheel and I'm the one. Go ahead and pull it through the one and pop it through the other.
Forward. There you go.
You could do that from back here in front of the door, not out front. I don't have to bend down here next to that thing and pull a chock. I don't have very good balance anymore, so me bending down near that prop is a bad idea. Thank you, sir, for your help. You can make them in lots of different ways. They don't have to be like that. Some people make them longer and they pull them from behind and pull them that way, and they bend out and slide back. Your imagination is your limit. The reason I have chocks behind the wheels is so when I tie the tail, the airplane doesn't roll back and put slack in the rope. Slack in the rope is bad. If the airplane gets a lurch against that slack in the rope, it could break that rope. And who's out in front of there? You are. You are. So we don't want slack in the rope either. Mary's going to demonstrate a propping from behind. So one hand is going to be on the door frame. This door on this side of that sheet doesn't stay open, so if we open it and put her hand there, it's get pinched. So imagine that the door is open and her hand's there. With her hand in that position, she cannot lean forward into that prop. It doesn't reach. So the only thing in danger is her arm, her hand. So what she does it the same way. Now, she doesn't always have enough oomph to make this one go. A metal prop has more inertia and more mass. It acts more like a flywheel. It's easier to throw. Go ahead.
Contact.
Contact. That's enough to start it. If you're on floats, skis, the ground's slippery, your ankle's sore, any one of them will think that you're not very stable, that might not be a bad way to try it. Okay, we've gone through it. Anybody who would like to step up here and try it, we'd love to have you do so. We'll stay here until we're done. I see a young lady right back there who'd like to come forward. Mary will coach you. I'm over here. I'm going to turn the mic off. I'm going to answer any questions you want to do. If you want to just come up and ask questions. Okay? Thank you.
Hi there. Hi, how are you? I'm good. Okay, you're a little shorter than me. Okay, so first thing you do is switch off because you don't want the mags hot while you're moving the blade. So switch off, and then we're going to get it down about here. Okay. Then brake set, and then you test them. You just try and rock the blade, okay? Fuel on, throttle closed. Now you're going to respect this prop but not be afraid of it. Okay, so step on up here, hands flat, meat of these fingers just over the edge. What you want to focus on is stepping back as you pull down. You want to be nice and close so you're not leaning. So step in a little bit more. You're a ballet dancer. Nice and tall and straight. Keep your head back. You say contact. Now I like to swing a little so I'm stepping. Take 2 good clear steps back. It doesn't matter. Whichever is dominant for you, you just want to make sure you get 2 steps back. Ready? Contact! That's all it takes. Do it again. All right. Get that done.
May I interrupt 1 moment?
You may interrupt.
He has an airplane where he can't get the prop positioned correctly. Something he might consider doing is having his mechanic reclock the prop here so that he can walk through like this. Now this one won't do it that way because it's clocked differently, but you could do something like that if you're too short or the environment's incorrect for you, physically for you. Something to think about. I'm sorry, go ahead. Thank you.
So when the cylinders are in between compression,
A
you
little
want the prop
closer. There
like
you
this.
go. Nice deep breath, nice and straight.
You want the
Contact.
to start right about here.
And that's all it takes. You're